Hello, everybody. You know the drill. It's me, Evan Grant, from the Dallas Morning News, dallasnews.com. Your double barrel today, Texas Rangers Insider. With this week's version of This Week in Rangers Baseball, y'all, as we get down to the last 3 weeks of the season, we are going to talk about bullpen. We're going to talk about the bullpen because, as most of you know, for most of the year, the bullpen has been a mess. Hashtag that. Bullpen a mess. But before we get to the bullpen and what's been a mess and what's been very neat, see how it's the symmetry element. Let's go through the disclaimer, please. I've got some goals here that I'm trying to reach by the end of this regular season. So help me out, help a brother out. If you can, subscribe to this YouTube channel, like this video, offer me a comment or two. Give me any ideas that you may have that are permissible for this format. Please, people, please work with me. All right, bullpen. And you probably would like me to go to all the problems, but I'm not. See, this is reverse psychology, I guess. Anyway, there are two things in particular I wanted to talk about, two guys in particular I wanted to talk about as the Rangers start to consider what they do in the bullpen this offseason, because I think, as we mentioned in previous editions of Rangers baseball, y'all, there's a priority list for what this team needs to do, and at the top of that priority list is starting pitching, and above all of that is make sure you know what you're doing at manager. And after you get through all that, maybe you might want to address some other areas. Does the bullpen need to be addressed? The short answer is yes. Is it in terrible shape? I'm not so sure. And I want to focus on two guys in particular here, Taylor Hearn and Brock Burke. Both of those guys have been absolutely outstanding in bullpen roles this year. I think I've gotten a lot of questions from some folks wondering, why not move Brock Burke back into a starting role, or at least look at it? And I think that's something the Rangers will discuss some this offseason. But as it was explained to me, if you do this, if you move Burke to the rotation, let's not go into Ranger history and everything that you guys will drag out the minute that they do that and say, oh, Neftali Feliz, oh, Lexi Ogando, oh, run for the hills. Before you do that, understand that if you do move Brock Burke to the rotation, you create two questions. One, can he be an effective starter? And you don't have that answer yet. Two, how do you fill that role in the bullpen? If you leave him in the bullpen, then you've still got to go out and get a starter, but you've got to do that. And you probably go get somebody who's got a track record. And this team has done a good job of identifying guys with upside on a free agent market in terms of starting pitchers. And then you've got a guy who really has, I think, not just performed well in his role. I think he's kind of embraced it. I really do. I think he likes the whole element of being part of a unit out there. I think the Rangers have handled him very judiciously this year. I believe Brock Burke has pitched on back-to-back days only once, and that might be a question that this team has to answer going forward is, would they use him more regularly on back-to-back days, or is he the kind of reliever that they'll have to use for, say, 2 innings one night, give him a couple days rest, and then bring him back? That's a question that they will have to answer going forward, because I don't know that you could say right now, the Texas Rangers, feel comfortable about Brock Burke working in a traditional relief workload of every day you have a lead, especially if you plan to have leads more often next year. But listen, there are some numbers that suggest that Burke could move to the rotation. Number at the top of that is the fact that He's averaging 9.9 strikeouts per 9 innings, and that's certainly workable in a rotation. I think you want to have a starter who's about a strikeout per inning in this day and age. I think 8 strikeouts per nine is, you know, bottom of the average tier. And then when you get below 8 now, I think, you better have a really strong ground ball repertoire as Martin Perez does, but he's also pushed his strikeout rate up to about 8 per 9 innings. So there are some things there that I think are worthwhile of discussing, but I do think that at the end of the day, when you look at Brock Burke and you look at what he's done this year, and you're looking at putting pieces into a winning mix, you found a piece that fits in a winning mix. And I think he'll be even more effective if you do address the rotation sufficiently and get a number of starters. I've thrown out there that they have to re-sign Martin Perez and then go add 2 more additional starters. And if you do that, your hope is that you're going to get 6 innings more regularly, 7 innings sometimes from a starting pitcher. And then all of a sudden, you've just got to, if you identified a closer, and we'll get to that in a minute, then you've got to get the 7th and the 8th, or sometimes just the 8th. And if you've got Burke out there and you've got Taylor Hearn, who we're going to get to in 1 second, you've got 2 lefties who can go multiple innings and who have above average stuff and the ability to retire both lefties and righties. Let's go to Hearn for 1 second. Since he's moved to the bullpen, and I think the Rangers have given up the idea that he would be a starter for good, as much as Taylor would like to do it, the splits are pretty dramatic. And if you look at the work he's done in the bullpen, really since the All-Star break this year, with a 2.13 ERA, which again in the bullpen is not that much of an indicative number, but the slash line is a 174 batting average, a 240 on base percentage, a 523 OPS. He's allowed 1 home run in 25 innings out there, and he's striking out 10.5 batters per 9 innings. He has done what the Rangers always wanted him to do as a reliever. He's come in with that mindset of, I've got good, aggressive, hard stuff. I'm going to attack with it. And I think what the Rangers saw often in the rotation was a guy who had gotten himself into a mindset, okay, to go deep in this game, I've got to pace myself. So I can't throw my hardest stuff right out of the gate. That led him into trouble early in games, and it led to the fact that he wasn't getting deep into games. So in this bullpen role, I think once and for all, he has shown he can be a winning piece on a good club. And so those are 2 good options in the 7th and 8th innings. We still have to solve the closer issue if you're the Rangers. I don't know that Jose Leclerc gives me a ton of confidence out there. I know that right now Jonathan Hernandez does not give me a ton of confidence out there, but I feel both those guys are usable pitchers. And I really think that Hernandez's stuff is so good, and the velocity does touch 99 to 100, which is just top tier closer stuff. His trouble right now is, after coming back from Tommy John surgery, I think his ball is moving horizontally so much that he's having a hard time figuring out where to start it to get it to land in the strike zone. That's not unusual, especially for a guy with significant movement like Jonathan has. It takes some time, once you've been back in the game, to really hone that into major league strike zone worthy pitches. Something he now can work on this offseason through his regular throwing program, and he can work on next spring. And I think Jonathan Hernandez ends up as this team's closer. That is supposing something, right? And I think the Rangers are looking in some regards to try and eliminate as many questions as they can. Where can we slot guys for 2023 where we know they will be winning pieces? You look across the lineup, And I think the only place you've got any kind of question right now is in left field. And you've still got some options out there in Bubba Thompson, Josh Smith, and potentially Ezekiel Duran. But around the rest of the diamond, I think you feel like you've got answers for a championship team. And you could always go out and add a left fielder in free agency if you want to continue to bump up the payroll. I don't think you would do that until after you address the pitching issues. But my point here is there's more definitive answers there than there are in the bullpen. And so I think you've got to get some kind of guy in the bullpen who could potentially close a little bit, maybe early on, as you continue to get returns on Jonathan Hernandez. But somebody who eventually would settle into more of a leverage role, because I think if you expect to win, you're going to need to have multiple high leverage type guys. You've got Hearn, you've got Brock Burke, probably need one more in that rotation, especially if those guys are going to often go more than one inning because they're going to need a night off. Brings us to Jose Leclerc, who has a $6 million option for 2023. And quite frankly, that's even though he's been up and down, and again, the command's not quite there. He's also missed more time than Hernandez did between Tommy John surgery and the lat muscle injury, or the teres major muscle injury that he suffered in 2020 before the Tommy John issue. I think the same thing kind of applies, the same principle applies to Jose, that the more time he has to work with his pitches, especially that kind of Slambio, that slider, split finger changeup thing that he has, the more time he has to work with that, the better the command is going to become. And $6 million in today's game for a reliever who could be a high leverage type guy for you is not a terrible amount of money. So I would not be surprised to see the Rangers pick it up. I think it is a question that's got to be continued to be discussed, because the other possibility is, do you get rid of that salary and that commitment, which I think was $4 million in 2022? You get rid of that commitment and take that money and then put it into another high profile reliever, maybe even a closer. The general thinking on closers, as much as I would love to see Edwin Diaz's entrance music, trumpets, and everybody dancing at Globe Life Field when he comes in, the general feeling on closers is that the value you would have to pay for them on the free agent market as established closers versus the value you get once they get there, it's a losing proposition. The returns go this way, this way, this way, instead of any chance of it going this way. So that is the general thinking in the game today. You can get somebody to close out the ninth inning, a younger pitcher with great stuff, if you can protect leads to get to the ninth inning, and if you've got an offense that's capable of tacking on some runs. And I think the Rangers will certainly have that next year offensively. I think that they're trying to put themselves in position to protect more leads late. This team has lost a lot of games that it's led after 7 innings because of bullpen meltdowns. There are other pieces in the bullpen who, will round out a bullpen. You're not going to have 4 relievers. You probably will have 8 again. So there are going to be other guys. Brett Martin may figure in. I have to go because it's been Dennis Santana may figure in. I have to really kind of look through the roster again, because it's been such a rotating group of guys out there. But, Matt Moore, I think, will definitely come back. But now all of a sudden you take Moore, Martin, Hearn, and Burke, and you've got 4 lefties out there. You need a couple of right-handed pitchers to go through like a stretch of right-handed hitters. Leclerc could be that guy. Jesus Tinoco, who is getting a look right now, could be that guy. But I think if you're in the market for a free agent pitcher on the relief side, probably you're going to be looking for free agent right-handers. And if you're the Rangers, maybe you consider dealing somebody like a Brett Martin or a John King if they've got any value, to try and get exchange a left-hander for a right-hander, maybe with some upside that you can coach a little bit. When I look at that bullpen and I look at how rough it's been this year, I think again so much of it comes back to the starting pitching. That we knew going into this season, this team was probably short on starting pitching. That after Martin Perez and John Gray, who weren't by any stretch of the imagination considered to be a number 1 and number 2 going into the year, that there were going to be question marks. And the Rangers haven't gotten any definitive answers in that rotation. And because of it, it's often led to the bullpen having to use 4 or more relievers in a game, or work 4 or more innings in a game, and those just add variables. And those variables are what turn a team from a expected, a Pythagorean expected win-loss percentage of what should be right around 500 now. It's 69 and 73 based on their runs scored and runs allowed, to a team that is headed for, in all likelihood, another 90-loss season. The Rangers are 62 and 80 in real life as I tape this on Wednesday morning, as opposed to 69 and 73. And I think you could pin so much of that to that missing link between getting enough out of the rotation and having to go to question marks in the bullpen. And I'd like to make a little chain link. This is the chain link sign, either that or I've just joined some kind of gang and I'm in a lot of trouble. But usually here at This Week in Rangers Baseball, I'm always in a lot of trouble because I don't know what I'm doing. But I am here for you guys and gals, everybody. I'm here for everybody. I am a man of the people. I don't know why I'm saying this, but I'm going to wrap up today. Please remember, again, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. We will be back next week. If you've got suggestions for an episode that you want to hear between now and sometimes say early in the off season, let me know. I think what we are going to do, one of TV's most awaited shows, the annual Evie Awards. We'll do that at the end of the season. We'll break some things down on Rangers Players of the Year, Pitcher of the Year, things like that. I don't think there's much discussion on who the Rangers Pitcher of the Year is, quite frankly. But I think we could have a good debate and good discussion about Player of the Year. So we'll do that. But I'd love some other ideas from you guys. Certainly, we'll take a look at free agency, the managerial situation, all of that going forward. But I as we try and build this thing, it's about community and participation. So let me know how we can make this better, in all seriousness. And so until then, I will see you, everybody. This is good video.